How can you say such a thing about your own daughter? That's what irritates me about you. You ought to be embarrassed. Simply walk out if you have any problems. At last I lost my cool and said, "Let's get divorced." I was unable to be with him any longer. He said, "Okay, let's do it," as though he had been waiting for this very time. He dug divorce papers out of his backpack with much anticipation. I'm a 37-year-old housewife named Ashley. My spouse Mike and our daughter Emily reside with me. The same firm employed me as Mike, but I left once we were married. I gave birth to Emily not long after, and I've been caring for her and our house ever since. Mike was thoughtful and nice when we were courting, but our marriage absolutely transformed him. He assumed the role of the head of the household. My housework increased after Emily was born. Cleaning and cooking was already there, but now taking care of Emily all alone was an absolute challenge. I didn't even get to sleep some days because my nights were spent shushing Emily to sleep, which made me exhausted due to lack of sleep. One day I got so frustrated that I told Mike to hold Emily for some time and let me have a nap since I had to take care of the dinner as well. I already knew how it was impossible to ask Mike for cooking and cleaning since he gets irritated easily by that, so I thought maybe he won't mind holding Emily since she is his daughter as well. As Emily's mother, it is your responsibility to take better care of her. Don't disturb me, he would say again and over. I was out working and I'm exhausted. He would add, I couldn't just walk out with Emily, even if I was upset. Mike made a decent living, so I told myself I could put up with it as long as he fed us. I hated how Mike didn't give Emily enough attention, especially when she started walking. I had to take care of her all alone. Keeping her from touching the outlets to quickly grabbing dangerous things from her, which could hurt her, made me so tired. I had to run around the house. I kept my marriage to him going by lying to myself. In an attempt to improve matters, I suggested going on family vacations or going out to dinner. But Mike would continually brush off my suggestions, telling me things like, "That's a waste of money," or "I need to rest at home." Mike didn't even seem to care about Emily. He made no attempt to get close to her, and other than acting as the head of the household, he gave off the impression that he was totally cut off from us. After some time, I turned 43. Now in her third year of middle school, Emily had changed from the tiny child with the colorful Barbie bag to a diligent student preparing for her high school entrance examinations. Emily and I became closer as a result of Mike's distance, sharing nearly everything. She would discuss her ambitions for the future and her studies with me. She came to me for assistance since she was dead bent on attending a private high school. But because Mike would be covering her tuition, I advised her to discuss it with him as well. Emily reluctantly broached the subject with Mike after he got home from work. "Dad, I want to talk to you about the high school I want to attend," she said, but he gave her a non-committal, "Do whatever you want" response. Emily asked, "I don't need to talk to Dad about it again, do I?" as she gave me a resigned look. After a year, Emily started high school. She appeared to love going to school every day after passing the admission exam for the school of her choice. Mike, who had been mostly invisible, began criticizing me at this point. "Hey, you're a housewife, so why are you so bad at housework?" he yelled. "Every single thing is covered in dust, and you prepare the same dishes every time. I've had enough of your cooking." His abrupt harshness surprised me, and I wasn't sure how to react. Mike started criticizing everything I did and making fun of me all the time. He would become enraged and shout at me if I attempted to defend myself. I stopped listening because I didn't want to deal with him. However, Emily confronted her father one day after growing tired of his actions. "Why don't you clean the home yourself, since you seem to have so much to say about Mom's cleaning methods? Every day, Mom prepares our breakfast, lunch, and supper. She even prepares us meals to bring to work and school. She doesn't have time to learn new recipes because she is so busy. For once, how about giving cooking a try? Regarding the dust on the shelves, Mom can't get up that high. If it really bothers you, you ought to clean it yourself." I was completely unprepared for Emily's angry reaction, and Mike, too much of a coward to face her, became enraged with me. "She doesn't even respect her own father anymore because of how spoiled you've made her. How on earth did she get to be this old?" That he could make such a demeaning reference to our daughter astounded me. I fired back. "That's what I hate about you. Don't you feel embarrassed to make such remarks about your own daughter? Let's simply get divorced if you have so many complaints. Get out." I could not stay with him any longer. I had reached my breaking point. "All right, let's file for divorce," he said, seemingly eager for this to happen. He dug divorce papers out of his backpack with much anticipation. "Here, sign them quickly." "You were really prepared for this, huh?" With bitterness, I said, "I've been wanting a divorce for some time. I can now move on from you." "I'm overjoyed," he said, sounding almost smug. I wondered how I had managed to be married to him for so long, even for the sake of our kid when I saw him like this. "You'll have to give me half of everything," I said. "It's true. I know. Just sign the paperwork," he snapped back. I completed my portion of the paperwork and returned it to him with mixed emotions of relief and regret. "In that case, pack your bags and leave," Mike insisted. "Emily, let's go," I said, anticipating her arrival. However, her next statement startled me. Emily said, "I'm not going anywhere. This is where I'm staying. Allow my father to look after me." "Emily, why?" I questioned, totally perplexed. Did she not detest her father? I believed that because we had spoken so much, we had gotten close. Was our relationship simply in my imagination? "I've lived here before. I don't want to transfer to a different high school because it's close to mine," she said. I said, "In that case, I'll rent an apartment near your school," attempting to come up with an answer. "No, it's not a problem. I'm used to living here, like I stated," she said. I was taken aback. It never occurred to me that Emily wouldn't accompany me. Mike seems equally taken aback. "Why? Mothers normally accompany their children, right? You two seemed close. Leave with your mother," he said. "Stop talking. I mean, I make the decisions, right?" Emily angrily said, "I've decided to stay here with you." "No way," I mumbled, utterly bewildered. Emily pulled me into the bedroom and said, "Mom, I'll help you pack your bags." She murmured in my ear, "This is all part of my plan," once we were alone. "Please have faith in me." What? Though I was perplexed, I chose to believe her after calming down and observing her tenacity. I went to my parents' residence after leaving the house. Emily visited me at her grandparents' house a few days later and gave me a thorough explanation of her plan. It was a really clever strategy, I had to say. Even though she was my daughter, I was a little intimidated that a high school student had thought of it. I got half of the property when Mike and I divorced, just like we had agreed. Emily was given to Mike, but as I was a homemaker with no source of income, I was exempt from paying child support. The first part of Emily's scheme was finished. In actuality, Emily had witnessed her father out on a stroll with another lady. I hired a private investigator after she informed me, and we obtained proof that Mike had been having an affair. I was able to sue Mike and his lover for alimony with that proof. In the end, they both paid me a sizable sum. Mike was taken aback. He had no idea that I was aware of his extramarital affair. Emily intended for her father to get custody of her in order for her to evict his lover. Emily didn't require much attention because she was a high school student, but she was aware that her presence might unnerve her dad's partner. As Emily had anticipated, the lady soon became enraged with Mike for breaking his vow to get rid of his daughter and left him. After everything transpired just as Emily had anticipated, I moved home with my folks. I got a job after moving home with my folks. I was employed as an accountant by a small business, since I am a qualified bookkeeper and have years of expertise in accounting. I had saved up enough cash 2 months after the divorce to rent an apartment close to Emily's high school. I opted for a 2-bedroom apartment so Emily could visit anytime she pleased. She gradually made regular visits and eventually spent nearly every night staying over. After that, she would leave my house and head straight to school. My ex-husband Mike was left on his own, since Emily was at my place so frequently. His large home soon grew messy and dusty as he had no one to take care of the cleaning. Mike resorted to eating unhealthy meals, usually fast food and quick noodles, as I had always been the one to prepare them. He continually missed the pickup days since he didn't even know when to take out the garbage, which caused food wrappers and the smell of rotting food to flood his home. This was my daughter's second strategy in action. Emily made sure Mike had no one left to clean the home when he drove his sweetheart away, which made him understand how much I had helped him over the years. Mike finally contacted me in tears 3 months after our divorce. "Help me. The house is in disarray," he sobbed. "What happened?" I pretended to be astonished as I asked. "No one is available to clean the house. I'm eating awful stuff and I'm completely incapable of cleaning. Because of that, my health is beginning to deteriorate." "And you're forcing Emily to live like that?" I shot back. "No, she seldom returns home and is a great rebel. How can I possibly find out whether she attends school? She is under your charge, so look after her." "But you took custody of her because you wanted to, right?" I reminded him while stifling a giggle. Understanding a female going through puberty may be difficult. In any case, good luck with being a single father. Relieved, I hung up the phone. Mike was now starting to see how difficult housekeeping is because of our daughter's ingenious scheme. Mike eventually had to spend a large sum of money to hire a maid to clean his entire house in order to cope. Emily was rarely home, so he even contacted his sweetheart to let her know. Shortly after, his sweetheart moved in with him. I reasoned that it was about time Emily returned to my house, but this was also part of her scheme. Emily once went to her dad's workplace after school. "I can't go back there anymore because my dad's lover is living in our home," she stated as she walked up to the registration counter. "I've come here to ask him for money so I can pay my rent." The receptionist was stunned, and it was already too late for Mike to hurry outside and grab Emily away. Unfavorable rumors circulated rapidly throughout Mike's company. He hadn't disclosed to his co-workers that our divorce was the result of his affair, so when the truth was out, they all turned against him, making him feel extremely self-conscious. After a while, Mike begged me to take Emily in, saying he couldn't take care of her. After I gave my consent, Mike began to provide me child support. Emily and I didn't really modify our everyday routines because we had been living together for a long time before I was granted custody. Still, we were both quite happy that Emily's plan had come together flawlessly. We loved our time together, went shopping, and cooked together. Emily was resolved to support herself in whatever way she could, since she had her sights set on a university education. 2. Nevertheless, my mother-in-law confronted me one day, enraged. "Are you unable to comprehend what I'm saying? You truly are a moron. You parasite. How long will you continue to spend my son's money?" As she tried to push me away, she cried, "Get out of my sight." I chose to obey her orders and walk away at that moment as I realized there was no sense in trying to argue with her. I'm a 35-year-old office worker named Grace. Jasper and I have been married for 3 years. Although we are not yet parents, we love traveling, eating at fine restaurants, and leading happy lives together since we both work full-time and make decent money. I moved to working from home a while ago, and I currently perform nearly all of my work from there. That's why I did the most of the housework so Jasper could concentrate on his work. Nevertheless, Jasper contributes much on the weekends, and our marriage is well-balanced and equitable. My spouse and I met at a matchmaker's function, and I was drawn to his sweet face right away. Soon after we started dating, and 2 years later, we were married. Jasper's warm grin continued to ease my anxieties even after our wedding. Even though we had a pleasant marriage, we had disagreements, my mother-in-law being the main one. The family of my spouse runs a network of restaurants. The initial store was started 15 years ago by my late father-in-law, and as it gained popularity, it established other locations across the city. My mother-in-law was clad in designer clothing from head to toe when I first met her. I had a distinct feeling that she was wearing them only because they were pricey, not because she enjoyed them. She felt as though she was living a life of new money, and the clothing was very inappropriate for her. She appeared to look down on me when I first met her, just before Jasper and I were married. "Well, just about anyone will do as long as my son's wife is good around the house and doesn't cause problems," the woman remarked. "However, I don't think you'll be very fortunate. Although you are employed right now, please don't think that you will be given a position at the restaurant if you get fired in the future. I predict that you won't have much luck in business." Despite the fact that it was our first meeting, this was her approach. Jasper gave his mother some grief, which caused her to shut up, but she didn't change her mind about me. It was impossible for me not to deem her extremely impolite. To run a profitable restaurant business, I guess you have to have a strong personality, but at least my spouse supported me. Her remarks didn't really affect me, because I never intended to work at the restaurant in the event that I lost my job. Jasper repeatedly expressed regret for his mother's harshness and gave me the reassurance that seeing her only during formal family gatherings like weddings and funerals would be all right. Jasper's mother didn't really depend on him because she co-owned the restaurants with other family members. Jasper didn't appear to think much of his mother either. Even though she was usually gentle with her son, if things didn't work out with the company, she would act very differently. While his mother would just pester him, his father would give him advice regarding his future. Jasper stopped living alone when he started college since he didn't enjoy hanging out with her. He was obviously appreciative of his parents' financial assistance in enabling him to attend college. Jasper wants to pay his parents back for their support because he is now employed steadily at a respectable firm as a result of that. He still avoided his mother, though, since he considered her bothersome. Jasper made it plain after our wedding that he didn't want to work with her much, and I hadn't seen her since. This was likely caused in part by the fact that Jasper and I were still childless, and hence somewhat estranged from his family. Jasper and I had a wonderful marriage for a long time, but lately, issues at my mother-in-law's restaurant started to arise. Her negative attitude was the main culprit. If the cuisine was delicious, you might get away with a demanding owner in the past, but in the age of social media, ratings are now vital to a business's success. Numerous unfavorable internet reviews focused on her bad customer service. She was criticized for her impolite demeanor, careless service, spilling soup on patrons, and fostering an unwelcoming environment that detracted from their dining experience. The restaurant soon began losing patrons as a result of these disparaging remarks, which circulated swiftly. The chain's other sites started to have problems as well. Reviews indicated that the food had become worse than pre-made dinners since its quality had decreased. People ceased coming to the restaurants as a result, but my mother-in-law obstinately refused to take responsibility for young people these days, and changed the way she handled the business. After a while, the main branch was getting close to bankruptcy, and the chain as a whole was in danger of breaking. My mother-in-law unexpectedly showed up at our house and begged Jasper, which was an uncommon act. "Jassy, please help me. If this keeps up, I'll be living on the streets." "The business won't last if you keep going like this," Jasper firmly said. "Did I not warn you before? You are really too conceited. The adage, 'the customer is always right,' is well known. When you treat your consumers improperly, you'll lose their trust. But at that time, you didn't pay attention to me, did you? You really brought this on yourself, to be honest. This is a good time for you to think back on what you did. I apologize, but I'm not able to help you." Upon hearing these remarks, my mother-in-law broke down in tears. My loving husband's stern words shocked me, but I understood that he was being tough because he loved her. He was being sincere and attempting to assist her out of love. Jasper's handling of the issue made me respect him even more. After a while, my mother-in-law gave up and went back home. However, my mother-in-law returned to our house a month later, looking unkempt and without any designer clothing or accessories. "Please, even though I sold all of my luxuries, I'm still unable to pay off my obligations. Even after I sold the automobile, I still owe money on my debts." She got down on her hands and knees and begged, "Please save me. You're the only person I can turn to." Jasper was at a loss for what to do and stood there with his arms folded. I didn't like my mother-in-law, but I felt compelled to assist her after witnessing her in this condition. "Jasper, why don't you send your mother some money every month? I recommend." "Huh?" My mother-in-law gave me a shocked look, and my husband was taken aback by my offer. She said, "Grace, is that okay with you?" "That's right, it is," I told her. "And didn't you say you wanted to repay your parents for covering your university tuition, Jasper?" "Yes, that is correct," Jasper acknowledged. Still on her knees, my mother-in-law pleaded, "Please, just help me with my living expenses. I'll work hard to pay off my loans." Jasper finally decided to help her and decided to give her a monthly payment of $700. I also made the decision to add $1,100 to that sum. Jasper assured me that I didn't need to send her much, but I was determined to support my mother-in-law in repaying her debts and starting over as quickly as possible. I thought that this encounter would make her more humble and alter her haughty demeanor. I worked a full-time job and earned additional money from real estate. After some time spent researching stocks and investments, I had a healthy portfolio. I acquired an apartment that I rented out using the money I made. I bought another flat to rent out as my investments continued to provide higher returns. I had around $750,000 in income overall, so I wasn't concerned about money. I sent Jasper the money to give to my mother-in-law, but I kept this a secret from her, of course. My mother-in-law expressed her gratitude and heartfelt thanks to us. "Jasper, I really appreciate that. My life has stabilized because of you," she remarked. Jasper seems pleased to learn that. Our expectation was that my mother-in-law would get employment and gradually settle her bills, but after a month, she was still unemployed. Subsequently, a more significant issue surfaced. My mother-in-law started paying frequent weekday visits to our home. "Grace, I'm hardly able to purchase meals." She would come in the afternoon, expecting me to cook her lunch, and ask, "Can you make me something to eat?" My mother-in-law used to depart after lunch, but as of late, she has taken to spending time on the sofa. She would even ask me for dessert on occasion. She was hanging around for so long that it was difficult for me to concentrate when I was working, so I felt compelled to eventually say something. "Mother, I want you to go. I have a function at the restaurant," I said politely, hoping she wouldn't feel bad. My mother-in-law laughed at me. "What functions? Are you not at home all the time? Come up with something more convincing if you're going to lie," she said. Perhaps due to her extensive experience in the restaurant industry, she was oblivious to the notion of working remotely. I gave her a thorough explanation, but she was unable to understand. She would not listen to me no matter how busy I told her I was. She persisted in requesting more from me. "Grace, the tea is running out. Go purchase some, you worthless wife you are. Nor do you have any refreshments." She would say, "Crackers would be great. You are such a useless wife. Even as a housewife, you can't even accomplish this much?" Even though my mother-in-law said she was looking for a job to pay off her debt, she would not stop blaming me. Rather, she stayed at our place all day and left briefly just before Jasper got home. She was receiving money from Jasper, so I'm sure she felt bad about it. Alternatively, perhaps she didn't want him to inquire about her employment status. I was at the end of my endurance. Why did she have to speak to me in such a rude manner when I was the one who gave her the majority of the money each month? At last, I confronted her and pleaded with her to go. My mother-in-law trembled for a minute. Her face suddenly got crimson and she started to shout, even though it didn't appear like she expected me to say anything to her. How could you say that to the mother of your own husband? You are only a homemaker who depends on Jasper's income. I was done. How many times must I tell you this? I am not a homemaker. Put an end to those illusions. I gave a forceful response. After screaming, my mother-in-law grimaced as though she had discovered something. That concludes everything. All I have to do is expel you. Because you are here, Jasper pays me so little money each month, that $850 you get paid every month. We sent the money to you jointly. By little, do you mean what? Is that truly all you have to say? I was taken aback by her outburst. It's not enough, she shot back. I had to remain composed even though I was at a loss for words. It appeared that despite her limited financial resources, she continued to lead an opulent lifestyle. I had had enough of her actions. With a chilly gaze, my mother-in-law said, "Hey, how long do you plan on spacing out? Assemble your luggage. Are you unable to comprehend what I'm saying? You truly are a moron. You parasite. How long will you continue to spend my son's money? Please leave my sight." She made an attempt to shoo me away, but I knew by now that talking sense into her was pointless. I made the decision to do as she had instructed. I responded, "Okay, I'll pack my bags and head out." The triumphant expression on my mother-in-law's face followed me as I started packing. I started packing my bag after saying goodbye to my mother-in-law. I made the decision to leave as soon as feasible. Feeling that she had finally managed to get rid of me, my mother-in-law walked home with a delighted expression on her face. I told Jasper everything that evening. Anger was overwhelming him. "Grace, I'm so sorry," he said while obviously disturbed. "It's all right. We were able to comprehend that your mother hasn't changed at all because of this. Is it not a positive thing that we understand we should give up trying?" I answered, attempting to remain upbeat. Jasper and I packed up our belongings and headed out of the house. After 2 weeks, my mother-in-law gave me a call. "What took place? Have you departed from your home? Jasper sends me money every month, and I intended to call you about it, but I've been too busy to do so until now." "Don't worry, I've already left the house," I assured her quietly. "You won't have to see me ever again." My mother-in-law seemed quite content. "My kid was able to get rid of you at last. Jasper will send me more money, and I'll have a comfortable existence," she said with joy. "You've said so many mean things to me, calling me a parasite," I shot back, sighing. "You are completely incorrect. You ought to use greater caution." Then my mother-in-law shouted back, "You're behaving crazy once more. With you, what can I possibly do? At least you are no longer my son's wife. From now on, I pray you have a destitute and lonely existence." How incorrect she was, but it didn't matter. I allowed her to believe that. A little while later, I hung up. She gave me another call after a week. "What is it this time?" I questioned, bracing myself for the worst. My mother-in-law asked me, "What's going on?" while in a panic. When I got to Jasper's flat, it was occupied by someone else. "Have the two of you broken up? Are you aware of what transpired? Where is he?" I gave my husband the phone when he heard his mother talking next to me. With a forceful tone, Jasper stated, "Mom, I've been with Grace this entire time." "You're with her, but why? Why did you stop sending me money too?" she insisted. "You would prefer to humiliate Grace and force her to leave our home, isn't that right? You can't have my forgiveness for hurting my beautiful wife, even though you're my mother. Grace repeatedly tried to explain her profession to you, but you were uninterested. The majority of that money was really sent to you by Grace. It appears that you were unaware, Jasper said. What? She questioned, startled. Are you serious? Grace would give you $100 a month because she wanted you to be able to pay off your obligations as soon as possible. However, you would mock her and label her useless. I will not provide money to a person such as you. I'm sorry, but I'm severing our relationship. Pay your debts yourself, Jasper sternly stated before hanging up. I didn't realize how much Grace was making, so I apologize. Please send me money again. She begged for pardon. However, it was already too late. You should give up now, Jasper informed her before hanging up, and I blocked my mother-in-law's number as a result. She never tried contacting us again. Jasper later learned from his family that his mother was still unable to pay off her obligations even after selling her home. She now leads a very simple existence, battling to make ends meet while living in a rundown apartment and working part-time. She asked her family for assistance, but because of her previous arrogance, she lost their support. She's all alone now and living a hard life, which is exactly what she deserved. Jasper and I carried on living our lives together and working our full-time jobs in the interim. Our time together has been increasingly valuable. After a year, I got pregnant out of the blue. I see having a kid as a gift from God, and am thankful to be raising a child with the guy I love. Even if I hadn't intended on having one at this time,